and welcome to Knitting on the Float. My name is Tracy and I'm your host. I am coming to you from a very gray day in the Vancouver area. It may be gray, but it is above 0 degrees Celsius, so there is a bit of a wind there. Very different from last week when I was in Toronto, and there's no other way to say it. It was minus disgusting. It was very, very cold. A tugboat just went by and I'm now feeling a bit of rocking. Let me just tilt this upward. You can hear that he went by maybe a little faster than he should have, and the lights are now swaying. This shall pass. The joys of living on a float home. Usually it's not so bad, but every once in a while if a boat goes by, slight movement, but normally not so much. Anyway, back to knitting on the float and the knitting that has been happening around here. So I am back in the Vancouver area after my 6 days away in Toronto, and I am so excited to start chattering about all of the crafting that I have gotten up to. But before I do that, let me tell you where you can find me. I am Tracy RR on Ravelry, and I am at Knitting on the Float on Instagram. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. In this podcast, I usually chatter about knitting. Sometimes other crafts pop in there too. I am called Knitting on the Float because, not because I do a lot of colorwork knitting, but because we live on a float home. As I just mentioned, and tugboats go by and other big ships go by as well, mainly tuggies though, and leisure craft. But it is very interesting living on the Fraser River, and every once in a while a wave will take you and you feel it just slightly, although sometimes a little bit more than others. So welcome to that big long explanation. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I think we are going to be staying put for a little while. So I think for the next little while, podcasts will be back to normal. And it feels like it's been a while since we've had a regular podcast schedule. So welcome back to you and welcome back to me. So let's get started with some tea time. And today, even though I've just been away to not so tropical Toronto, I'm feeling like I need a little bit of the tropics. So I have pulled out my Rendale Designs Pink Ladies mug, and who doesn't love some flamingos on a February day? February, can you believe it? Today I am drinking just, what kind of segue is that? February, can you believe it? Today I am drinking tea. I always drink tea. Today I am drinking Marks and Spencer, just extra strong tea. It's lovely and rosy in my Pink Ladies mug. And today I think we should cheer to getting back to regular life, working down the whips, working down the stash, and just enjoying life. So cheers to enjoying regular life. Sometimes that first gulp of caffeine feels like just the most wonderful, wonderful thing. And that one there has warmed up my core and has settled me down a little bit with that tiny smidge of caffeine. And I'm just gonna take one more sneaky little sip. I know it's just plain Marks and Spencer tea, but it is so, so good. And a shot of caffeine is good any day. This week, I have gotten up to quite a bit of knitting, and I'm going to be pulling in some projects that you haven't seen for a while. And I have a couple of finished objects that I'm going to share. One I finished in Toronto, so I've just got a bit of video snippet about that one. But I think I will start off with a project you have not seen and I hadn't seen for quite some time. I did debate taking this to Toronto, but because I only had a very small backpack, I just thought it would be better to not pack an extra project. And in hindsight, it was a good idea because I really only had a chance to work on the mittens that I'm going to share with you a little bit later most of the week, and then on the plane ride home, another project here. So I wanted to work on the other project, and this one got left at home. And this is my holiday road bag. I started this project last summer when we were driving from Vancouver to Orlando, Florida, up to Toronto, and then back to Vancouver. And I can't remember where I cast this on. I think I might have cast this on as soon as we were driving back from Orlando to Toronto, but it may have been from Toronto to Vancouver. I just remember doing quite a few wondrous dishcloths in that time period. These are some vanilla socks that I cast on, and I finished sock 1 back in the summer or early fall. And these are just a 1x1 twisted rib, nice plain vanilla both sides. I have done an eye of partridge heel. I have done, I think it's called a half kerchief or a kerchief heel right there, and a nice gusset into the foot, and then a barn toe. So this is Scrumptious Pearl and Birdie Bots, and this one has been done for quite some time. And I had, the last time I shared this with you, I had just started the Eye of Partridge heel flap. And now I am through the heel flap. I have done the heel turn. I am now through my gusset, and I'm now just knitting the foot as I approach the toe. So just a little bit left to go. I'm just starting in this orange section, and I am mirroring them pretty perfectly. There's a little bit of a difference in this little striping section where I rejoined after the heel flap and turn, but they are knitting up pretty much as twins, which is nice. Anyway, these have been a long-term project apparently, even though they are just simple socks. I went to a meeting the other night and I knew I needed something simple to grab, and when I sort of looked through some of my whips, I thought this is probably the easiest project to grab and go, although I did need to finish off the Eye of Partridge heel and the heel turn before I got to the meeting. So just before the meeting, I sat down on the couch and whipped through this section and got some of the gussets done. And then in the car ride to the meeting, I did a little bit of knitting. And then during the meeting, I finished off the gusset and started into the foot. So making some progress. And this will probably be my go-to grab now when I just need something quick to knit on in the car, or when I know I'm going to be waiting for something, so then that way these won't be on the needles too much longer, I don't think, although you never know. Anyway, it was very nice to pull this out of the whip bin and work on it a little bit. So one project that got worked on this week. The next one I am going to chatter about is now living in my beautiful Alice in Wonderland bag. And I brought this to Toronto with me. This bag was made by my friend Christine, and it's absolutely lovely. Just a lovely off-white light patterning inside. There's a pocket in there, and I'll pull the pattern out. And what I'm working on in here is my second block for the Goose Eggs quilt. And this is a pattern by Danielle George, who is Little Bobbins. And I do have a really big project bag that Danny made for me that is filled with all of the yarns and block 1 from the Goose Eggs quilt, but it was a little bit too large to bring to Toronto, and it is easier when you're just working with 2 skeins of yarn to just grab a small project bag. So that is what I did. And the yarns that I am using for my the big triangles, I am using this beautiful La Bien-Aimée singles, merino singles, and this is called Amy's Shawl. And it is lovely pink peaches, little shots of green and blue in there. And then for my small triangles, I am using this gorgeous sparkly single skein of Arundel, and this is by Nora George Yarns, and there are some beautiful blues in there, little shots of icy blue and some darker gray blue bits. Really quite an interesting yarn when it knits up. And I took a photograph of it the other day. It came up quite turquoise. So while there are turquoisey bits, there's also these lovely shots of dark cobalt blue, which is fantastic because my other skein that I'm using for the blocks is cobalt blue. So when you get this hit of cobalt blue every once in a while, it's really nice. So I cast on block 2, and I'm just using my 7-inch signature straight. So there's not a lot of room for play to stretch out my knitting, so I'm going to have to be very careful as I talk about this project. So block 2, big triangle A, I've cast on Amy's Shawl, and I have completed 1 triangle, and I have completed 2 triangles in the Arundel, and I was talking about how dynamic this blue is, and you can kind of see it on the screen. I've got all these yarns that are in the way. I have put the next big triangle on the needles, and I'll just show you the back because it's really quite neat. It's a very neat construction, and it looks just as neat. Well, it looks neat on the back. It obviously looks neater on the front, but when I say neat, I mean like this looks neat, tidy. This looks neat, like as in cool. So neat and neat. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so this is the Goose Eggs Quilt Block 2. I have cast it on in February, which is great because my January block is done, and my goal is to try and do 1 block a month for the next 9 months and then get it sewn together and then do I-cord edging all around. So the fact that I have this cast on is a step in the right direction, or maybe it's a stitch in the right direction. Anyway, that is living for the moment in my Alice in Wonderland bag. I probably should be smart and put these needles in this needle cozy so that I don't have stitches fall off. That would be a smart thing, except for the fact that I probably could do it if I just did 1 needle. It just barely fits. So there we go. But needle cozies are very smart, especially if you want to keep your stitches on your needles. Anyway, just barely fits in there, but a fun project to share with you. And it feels good to have that second block started, because after finishing the first block, I thought, I don't know when I'm going to get to the second one. And thankfully, I got to it on my plane ride home. The next projects I'm going to talk about are both finished objects, and one was living in this lovely little bird-like bags, black sheep, white sheep bag, and I don't have it with me anymore because it was gifted. I was using the Mind the Gap colorway. This is by Trailing Clouds, and I believe it's the Nimbus sock yarn, and it's a merino and nylon base, although it feels a bit more like BFL than merino. I'm not sure why. With this yarn, I knit a pair of the World's Simplest Mittens by Tin Can Knits, and it is such a fantastic pattern. And I made the cuffs super long because my mother loves long cuffs on her mittens because they were a gift from my mom. And I cast them on when we were in England and did a little bit on the tube, Mind the Gap. I knit some of this project when I was on the plane ride to Toronto, and then when I had little bits of time here and there, I continued to work on the mittens, and I am happy to say that I finished them, and I have a little video snippet and some photographs to share with you right here. Brr, it is frigid. It's not even cold, it is frigid. It is, I think, -20 with a wind chill of -30, and I am just taking photographs of my Mind the Gap socks in the snow. Take a look at the icicles behind me. It is cold. Heading back to Vancouver tomorrow where it is a lot warmer, and hopefully I can't see my breath there. Anyway, I finished my Mind the Gap mittens. And this is the World's Simplest Mitten pattern, and my thumbs match. Look at that, perfectly matched mittens, and my mother does not want them blocked, but I've just snow blocked them. This project bag can now be put away, and it'll be ready for another project sometime soon. The next project that I'm going to share with you also uses the Trailing Clouds Mind the Gap. And as I said, it is, well, actually it says here 75% wool, 20% nylon. Oh yes, it does say on here, interesting. The wool content of this yarn is pure British blue-faced Leicester, which is what I thought. But when you look on Ravelry, I believe it says it's a merino nylon blend, and it's not. It is blue-faced Leicester. I knew that. It sort of felt a little bit more toothy. Good, I'm not losing my mind. Anyway, this is my leftover yarn from my own Mind the Gap project that I cast on when I was in London. I was using another beautiful bag from Christine, and that's my London bag. And here they are, my beautiful Mind the Gap socks. I'll pull them off, the sock blockers. And I have blocked these up. Unlike my mother's mittens, she did not want them blocked. They just feel so much nicer when they're blocked. I even did, where did I put it? Here we are. When we were in Toronto, I even did this little swatch in the Mind the Gap. I was playing around. When I did my long tail cast on, I didn't leave enough to do an extra box. So what I did was I just picked up some stitches on the side so I could just play with yarn a little bit more. So it's a very different looking swatch. Anyway, I wanted to show her how nicely it washed and blocked up, but she still said she wanted to have the mittens unwashed. So anyway, that is how nicely the blue-faced Leicester washes up. And of course, you've got to wash your socks before use and definitely after. And I have a beautiful matching pair of just plain vanilla socks. So this one, unlike the other pair I did, I have used a 2x2, just regular ribbed cuff, straight vanilla. I have done a slip stitch heel flap and a square heel turn. That's my favorite fit one. A lovely gusset, because gussets always give you room in your instep, straight through the foot. And for this, I have also done another barn toe. So my favorite toes, the barn toes, and I love an elongated gusset, which I've used here, and I do love that square heel flap or heel turn. Heel flaps, I like to play around, sometimes just stockinette, sometimes slip stitch, sometimes the eye of partridge is fun too. Anyway, here are my beautiful Mind the Gap socks. I cast them on in London, and now that I have finished them and washed them up, blocked them, I can now wear them and have fun memories as I wear my beautiful new socks. So fun to have two finished objects. Now this next project that I'm going to share with you, I'm just going to move the blockers off of the couch, is living in my Bird Like Bags treehouse bag with the fun pull on it. It's such a heavy glass pull, it's lovely. I am closer to being finished, but I am not quite finished. This project I believe is going to be released next week, or this pattern is going to be released next week. And this is the Arconia sweater by Amy Loudon, who is Tailoress Studios. And she's also the dyer of Dandelion and Dogwood. I am using some gorgeous La Bien-Aimée, and this is Cory Confetti. And it is Corriedale mixed with recycled fibers, and lots of fun pops of color are happening in this yarn. I am currently on a very short pair of needles because I am working on the sleeves. So I've got to be a little bit careful. So my Arconia sweater is getting closer to being finished, but still not quite there yet. But it does have a beautiful neckline on it. So it's got a folded down turtleneck. And I am on sleeve 1. So I've picked up and started doing some of the decreases down the sleeve. And I've still got quite a ways to go on sleeve 1. However, I am finished the trunk of the body, and I have cast off the ribbing. I've made it a little bit longer than the pattern calls for because I'm a little bit more comfortable with longer sweaters, and this is going to be a nice cozy sweater, so I definitely want to be sure to have a nice length that will keep my trunk nice and warm. I still have to pick up this sleeve here, but so far I am very, very happy with how this pattern is knitting up. I still have one full skein of the Cory Confetti left, so I don't think I will be playing Yarn Chicken. I have this much left on the current skein for this sleeve, plus a full skein, and I started the new skein at the top of this sleeve here, and then I've got a few little bits left from when I was doing the neck and the rest of the body. So I think I should be good for yarn. I had a total of 6 skeins of this yarn, and I did, as I mentioned, make it a little bit longer than the pattern calls for. But as I said, I'm happy with that decision. But look at this neckline, isn't it absolutely lovely? I'm going to hold on to the sleeves. I'm just going to pop it over my neck. I'm not even going to try to put my arms through because that would be very, very silly. But I could put my arm through the one, I suppose. I just won't put it through the other one. Anyway, this is how it's looking so far. Let's see if I can put this over my shoulder without knocking. Maybe that wasn't a good idea. Anyway, nice neckline. And that is all I'm going to show you on this for now. Hopefully next week I will be able to unwind myself, untangle myself from all the yarn, and be able to share this as a finished object. I'm confident that I will. I had my little holiday in Toronto. I've come back and I'm on another holiday called Sleeve Island. not enjoying it so much. I enjoyed my trip to Toronto much better, but what can you do? And of course, I am throwing yarn around. The Arconia sweater, as I mentioned, is going to be released, I believe, sometime next week. I'm really looking forward to, once it's off the needles, blocking it out, because when I did do my gauge swatches, it turned out so nice and cozy and soft. So I think it's going to be a really lovely sweater to wear and keep me warm. Even though we are above 0 degrees Celsius most of the days, it is nice to have that warm sweater. So carefully putting my sleeve and the rest of the sweater body back into my bird leg bags bag. And I will be taking that out a little bit later on today after I have edited the podcast so that I can continue working away on sleeve number 1 and hopefully get through it fairly quickly, because I still have sleeve number 2 to do. So there we are. A variety of projects, 2 finished objects, a long lost whip that has come to resurface, and a wonderful test knit, the Arconia sweater, which will be released very, very soon, so I better get a knitting. It's now time for brown paper packages, and I did make a purchase when I was in the Toronto area. I always have a hard time saying the yarn shop that I went to. Artisanotropy, I think is what it is, and they sell Katona yarn. So I popped by when I was taking my mom to the dentist, and I bought myself some Katona to make some more wondrous dishcloths. I keep wanting to make my mom some wondrous dishcloths, but she doesn't want the beautiful colors that Katona has to offer. She just wants plain white. So I have picked up 2 skeins of plain white Katona, so at some point I can make some wondrous dishcloths for my mom. But I also saw 3 colors that I liked too. So I have a lighter version of this one, and I just thought this was lovely. And these are all numbered. So this one is, I think, 528. This one is, it's an interesting color because it looks brown, but then it sort of has undertones of mauve to it, like a little bit of purple. This is color 406. And then I just got, in comparison to my mother's bright white, a nice soft cream. And this one is 105. And the white is 106. So, for my mom, for my stash, maybe for myself, maybe as gifts, I don't know, but I liked those 3 together, so I picked that up. And also, while I was in the store, I saw that they had Addie crochet hooks, and nice small ones, and I picked this one up mainly to work with my circular sock machine. I just really liked that it was very ergonomic. I've been using my Clover crochet hook, but I think this one will actually make it a little bit easier. So I picked up this in a 0.6 millimeter. So it is a tiny gauge hook, but that'll be good for sometimes when a stitch drops off. It's really hard to grab it, so I think this will be, and you don't want too thick of a crochet hook. And the Clover ones I have are lovely when you're working just on by hand, but I think with the machine this will make it a lot easier. I hope. I am hoping that this crochet hook will be really great with my circular sock machine. My circular sock machine is actually currently right behind you against the window. I have been keeping it by where I knit, but because I've been working on the Arconia this week, I haven't had a chance to work on making some more socks. But plan is to make some more circular sock machine knit socks. The next thing I'm going to share with you is some shopping that I did within my own stash. So I've had these yarns for quite some time, but I am going to cast on a really neat project. And yesterday I was looking through my stash for ideas, and I think I've come up with the yarns that I want to use. So I thought I would share those, and this will be a secret project in the next little while. But right now, these are just skeins of yarn from my stash. So I have some small minis from Miss Babs, and I have 9 of them, but I'm only going to use 8 of these colors. Several years ago, I bought some lovely little mini skeins from Miss Babs, and I believe these 2 here were in a Falling Leaves autumn set, and I used most of that set to make the surprise party shawl, my test knit for that, and I had a little bit left over. So these ones just are numbered, and this one is numbered 1 and this one is numbered 2. And then these minis here I bought, and I think I threw this one in because I liked it, because it's not yellow, it's bright green. These minis here I actually purchased to make an On the Spice Market shawl, and I also purchased a large 100-gram skein of a light gray, and I bought 7 colors because I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to knit these up. Well, I have knit an On the Spice Market shawl, and I used the kit from Loop of London, so I'm not feeling the need to use these for an On the Spice Market. And I've seen a really neat project that I think these will work very well in. So I'm thinking that I will do a rainbow, and here is my R and my O, so, and my Y, so Roy. And then I have the G. Oh, this is kind of greeny as well. And then I've got, I think I'm gonna go this turquoisey blue. I'm throwing an extra color in instead of just the Roy G Biv, which would be 7. So I would go the green into these 2 blues. And then here's where I'm a little bit stuck. I have these gorgeous purples. I'll hold up the blue and the green. So go this green into the blue, and then I'm thinking I'm going to go this dark purple and then into this magenta. And I think that'll look really, really neat. Although I could do this light purple into the dark purple, but I really love the look of this here. So this purple and then that. So let's see if I can hold these all together. Roy and G, as I grab them. Roy and G, and then we've got some Biv happening over here and looking really quite not so organized. Anyway, these are the colors I'm thinking of putting into this project, and unfortunately leaving this one for another day or another project. And then I was looking for another color to go along with these minis, and I wished at the time that I had 2 of this Quicksilver, which was a light gray that I had purchased to make the On the Spice Market shawl. But as I was looking through my stash, I came across this lovely Nora George Afterglow. And this is a BFL sock, and it's got the same sort of twist. And maybe I'll hold up Scout is rubbing against the back of the couch. It's got a very similar twist, which I think will be really nice. And I love the fact that all of these shots of rainbow are, let's see, so we've got some green in there, and there is definitely some purple in there, and some magenta, bit of red down there as well, and on this side there's red and magenta. The orange is a little bit different. This is a much brighter fluorescent orange, but I still think it looks pretty neat with this set. And then there are bits of bright highlighter yellow in there, which will make the ginkgo pop. There's a little spot there too. And then we've got, grab the blue in there, as well as this tealy greeny blue as well. So I think that I really like how these colors are coming together, and that will be something that I will be putting on the needle soon as a secret test knit, but sharing my yarn thoughts beforehand. And I'm not sure when I'll be able to share this with you, but it is fun to show you the yarns that I am choosing for a test knit. Anyway, that is all I have for brown paper packages and my stash shop. It's now time for Bits and Bobs, and this is my segment where I talk about anything and everything not necessarily knitting related. And everybody has just come home for lunch and the kitchen was overtaken, so I had to take a bit of a pause between brown paper packages and Bits and Bobs, so I just gotta get back in the swing of things. Anyway, kitchen's all cleaned up. We are ready to chatter away about some other things that are not necessarily knitting related. Although, I did get to the yarn store, and I will talk about that a little bit later. So this past week, we went to Toronto, Nathaniel and I. We left on the Monday morning super early, 4 a.m. start, and we flew out of an airport near Vancouver called Abbotsford. And we went by Swoop Airlines, which is a very, very discounted airline. I can't believe that we were able to each fly return for $102. So amazing prices, but that did mean that, you know, the extras such as seat selection and luggage cost extra. Although if you check in, they assign you a seat, and then I found if I went to the counter, they changed my seat for me, so it was a little bit more of a practical spot to be with Nathaniel and I. So I was really impressed actually by Swoop, so I would definitely fly with them again. This time I brought a suitcase back to my parents' place, and then I had packed my carry-on inside the suitcase, and then we brought a carry-on back. And the carry-on and the suitcase, those flights, for them, cost more than Nathaniel's and my flight, which, unbelievable. But again, overall, was fairly impressed. So we flew out on Monday morning, and we went to Swiss Chalet for dinner on Monday night. That was nice, because we don't have any Swiss Chalets on the West Coast anymore. Tuesday was the main reason that we went to Toronto. And Melanie Doan, who is the singer of the intro and exit music that I usually use, that's the Happy Homemaker, she runs a group called U School, so Doan U School, and it is a ukulele group where there are hundreds of students in the Toronto area, plus one on this coast, Nathaniel, and there is also another student on the east coast of Canada. So it truly is now a national program, and they learn ukulele. So Nathaniel has been very lucky that with the pandemic, he had to go online for U School, and he has been able to continue online, so that has allowed him to keep the connection. Anyway, they have done something very, very special in a recording studio, and that is all I can say about it for now. But when I can tell you, I'm very, very excited to share that about what we did in Toronto. And he had a great time, and it was a really fun day. And I wanted to mention also along the lines with Melanie Doan, she does sing the intro and exit to my podcast usually, but I have noticed there was a change that YouTube has made, and I am finding that I'm getting a little partially blocked whenever I use that now. So I don't want to block my videos from being seen in different, it's not even telling me where in the world it's being blocked. It just says partially blocked. So it could be that I'm banned in Japan, or I'm not sure where the restrictions are in the world, but it is partially blocked somewhere. And when I put in the effort to put a video together, I don't want it blocked because of a little entrance bit of music and a little exit bit of music. So when I was in Toronto, Melanie and I had a bit of a chat about it. The Happy Homemaker is from the Adam's Rib album, which is by Melanie Doan, and it's an excellent album, but it is produced by Sony Music. So she was with Sony Music, now she has her own record label. So she said I can use any of the other ones, but the Sony Music ones, I will get those limitations. So we're in the process of thinking what to do. But for now, I'm just going to use the music that is called Floating Home, and that's one of the YouTube shorts. But that's what's happened for now with Happy Homemaker, and we'll hopefully try and figure something out in the next little while, because I love that song. Anyway, Monday we flew. Tuesday we went to the recording studio, which was such a fun day. Wednesday I took Nathaniel to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child in Toronto, and it was a very pricey version compared to the one that my mom and I saw in London. But it was excellent, and Nathaniel said it was the best show he has ever seen. So that's saying a lot. He absolutely loved Matilda. I said, better than Matilda? He said, yes. So it was a great show. He got a Harry Potter scarf, he got a Ravenclaw scarf, and he really, really enjoyed that. I had fun comparing the London show to the Toronto show. The person that played Scorpius was absolutely amazing. In London, my mom and I sat in the second row from the front, and for this show we sat in the first show, and I will say we got a little bit wet. So that's all I'm going to say about that. A little bit of a splash, whatever that means. If you've seen the show, you'll know. Anyway, if you have a chance to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, it is sort of a sequel many years down. It's about Harry Potter's children, and a really interesting take on the Harry Potter story down the road, but an excellent, excellent production. Thursday was just a quiet day. Nathaniel had some homework to do, so he was set to it, and I worked away on the mittens, and I think I cast them off on Thursday evening. Friday was a little bit of a mixed emotion day. A little bit of a tough thing happened. I had to take my mom to, I didn't have to take my mom to the dentist. I took my mom to the dentist, and I was happy to do that. But unfortunately, when I was backing out of the garage, the person that plowed the driveway, they have a very large driveway, and he didn't push the snow back enough. And when I was coming out, I could see in the rear view camera that I was very, very close to the snowbank. So I went forward to try to do, and turned, because I thought I'll do a 3-point turn, but then the garage was there, so I didn't have a lot of room. So then I backed up to do the 3-point turn bit, and unfortunately hit the snowbank. And if it had just been, -2, probably nothing would have happened, but unfortunately at -21, feeling like -30, when I literally just tapped the back of the bumper to the snowbank. We put a big hole in the bumper. So that was very, very sad and not a good way to start off the day. So that happened. And then we drove to the dentist's office and my mom had her procedure, and while we were there, I may have done a little bit of retail therapy from my shocking incident, and I went to the Artisanothropy in Whitby, and I also went to the local British store, which was just down the street. I do have to say though, it was so cold. It was -21 and then -30 with the wind chill, and my legs as I was walking, even though I was wearing my Toronto coat, felt like little toothpicks, and if somebody had touched me, I think they would have snapped in half. It was so brutally cold. But I did pick up some Yorkshire blend of the bedtime tea, the biscuit tea, and also the toast and jam. So I am restocked. I probably could have bought it here, but decided that it was there in stock and saved me going out for a drive. And you know, since I had already dealt with the unfortunate incident with my sister's car and her bumper, I might as well drown myself in tea and lovely skeins of yarn. So that was the only really bad downside of going to Toronto. That and the deductible that has come off. Saturday, we flew home. Thankfully, my dad warmed up the car as we were going out because it was -25 on our way to the airport. It was brutally cold. And then when we landed in Vancouver, it was 7 degrees. It was like bikini weather. Not quite bikini weather, but gray, cloudy, but definitely warmer than Toronto. I do have some footage from the airport, and I will actually put that in right here, along with, I've got a little bit of footage from the river as well. Good morning. It is early morning on which day? Monday, January 30th, and we are in the very small Abbotsford Airport. And we are actually going to be going out onto the tarmac to get on our plane. This is how small this airport is. We arrived just at the perfect time at the airport today. We got straight to the line. We were able to change our seats so we're a little bit closer to the front of the plane. And hopefully, Nathaniel has a window, I have the aisle, and hopefully the middle seat is empty. It's looking like the plane isn't very full, so that's good. Anyway, I'll just show you the outside. The sun isn't up yet, it's still very dark, but you can see a little bit of golden hues starting in the morning. Anyway, we are going to fly to Toronto, and we've got a very busy few days ahead of us. Nathaniel's got time on his device, so he's
getting the last few hours.
Getting the last few hours?
Internet games before we go on the plane.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you were happy. Because you've got, yeah. He's got Minecraft to keep him busy, and then you've got some other audiobooks and stuff like that. I've downloaded a couple of movies, and I have my knitting. Getting more glare outside the window than anything. There is our airplane, and in the background you can see the mountains. We are at Abbotsford, so it's a very small airport. And look, they're bringing the little truck with, I don't know what they're going to load something in. It's a very budget airline. But that means that, oh, they're hosing down the tarmac there. Anyway, very budget airline, but that means that we are able to fly to Toronto for a very good price. our luggage is costing more than we are. They were actually just de-icing the plane because it is super cold today. It's -4 as we were driving, and it's not normally this cold in British Columbia in this area, but it is definitely chilly. And there they are, they're de-icing the plane. Not sure if you can see it through the glare or not, but they are just spraying the plane so that we will be safe as we fly. Sun's coming up. We're gonna have a beautiful sunrise as we head east. We are currently at Pearson International Airport in Toronto, and it is a very cold day this morning as we were driving to the airport. It was -25 degrees Celsius. I kid you not. Yesterday, during the day, it was about -20, but with the wind chill, it felt like -30. It is a little bit of snow. I'm not sure if you can see the snow. There's a plane just taking off, and the snow is hindering the sight lines there, so I'm hoping that we're not going to be delayed. But we are flying back to Vancouver, where it is much warmer than here. It is coming up on 9 in the morning, and we're just early waiting at the gate. We will not be on one of these little propeller jets. We're going to be on, I believe, a 737, and we're just waiting for it to come in. I haven't seen it yet, so not sure if we'll be leaving on time, but we are nice, warm, comfortable in here as compared to that snowy cold outside. And there goes another plane taking off. Again, not sure if you can see it because it is snowy and kind of disgusting out. This plane that's being towed here, we think this might be the plane that will be taking us home. We're still waiting for it to get to the gate. We're a few minutes behind schedule, but it looks like they're going to tow this to us, and then we will board and fly home. Swoop. Oh, we're being de-iced because there's one on the other side of us too. That's what that stuff is that they're spraying on us.
This is very uncomfortable.
Oh, you can take it from me. It seems that it's been a while since I have taken any footage off of the river, and I looked out the window and I could see this big white boat on the other side of the bridge, and I realized that it was being towed by this little boat. It's almost like an RV, but boat style. So it is called the Sun Seeker. Sunseeker. And this little boat here is towing this one. There is someone steering from inside the Sunseeker. Oh my gosh, look, it's got like a little slide off the back as well. So, a little leisure boat. I don't think I would want to slide into the Fraser. It's very, very cold. And, but might be kind of a fun thing to do if you're in a really lovely tropical area. Anyway, that is what is going on down the river on this Wednesday morning. Here's another quick snippet from the river, and this is Tugaway, and he is heading toward the swing bridge, which is now just starting to open. And behind him, he is pulling empty flats to load up with logs, and later on today he will bring some logs back up the river, likely, but I guess bringing the empty booms or flats, I'm not sure what you would call them, has to go back so they can load it back up again. And so that's what he is up to today. And sometimes they strap a couple of these together, and it's amazing to watch them. And if you've watched previous podcasts, you've seen them come up the river loaded with logs. Today, showing you going back and unloaded. I really feel like now that I'm back home from London and Toronto, and we had Vlogmas in December, even though I did a couple of podcasts, they didn't quite feel, because I knew I was going to be going out again. I almost feel like now that I know I've got nothing on the horizon, that I can sort of get back to the usual groove and recording podcasts on Thursday, working on projects, whatever I feel like working on during the week, or whether it's a test knit, or whether it's just pulling out an old whip or starting something new. It is feeling like, I can settle a bit. Anyway, I think that that is all I have for bits and bobs this week, and it's going to be nice just to be home, even in this gray weather. At least it's above zero, and I think that I'm just sort of getting back into my groove, and that is a good thing. Thank you so much for joining me on Knitting on the Float this week. I hope that you have had a chance to sit down and relax as I have chattered away about projects I've finished, projects I'm working on, projects I've picked up again. It just feels so nice to have a few things going on the couch and switching things up. I am hoping in the next week to do a little bit of work on my circular sock machine. And of course, I am looking forward to finishing off my Arconia shawl, as well as casting on something new and special. I have been thinking that once I cast the Arconia off, that I am ready to cast another sweater on. And I am thinking of Morticia, and this is by Andy Satterland. I am very sad to say that Andy's patterns are no longer available online, which is a huge shame because her patterns are wonderful. I have had some yarn in mind for this pattern for quite some time, and I am looking forward to getting that on the needles once I finish the Arconia. I think I like to have one sweater on the go. Who knows what else I will put on the needles in the next little while, but definitely I want to do Morticia after I finish Arconia. And I have some other sweaters that I'd like to put on as well, but there's always lots of crafting to be done around here. It was really nice to do some stash shopping this week. It's always nice to do stash shopping. You know, you've got these beautiful yarns and materials. It's so nice to be able to go in and make plans for them. And I am definitely looking forward to sharing what I'm getting up to with those with you in the weeks, maybe months ahead. But that one is going to be a very, very exciting project. I will leave you off with that. What is she making? Tell us more, Tracy. I just can't. But I will leave you off with that, and I look forward to visiting with you again next week as we get back to more routine things. Have the best week, and I'll see you then. Bye. I have to say, the past year has felt like a real anomaly to me. I don't normally travel as much as I have the past little while. I've gone to Toronto a few times, of course, going down to Florida, and going to London just seems so out of my usual routine. And it's been wonderful, but it just sort of feels a little strange. But I think for now, we are going to be settling for a while. And the only vacationing I will be doing is on this little island called Sleeve. Sleeves get such a bad rap, don't they? But yeah, I'll be here for a while. And you know what? It's a good place to be.